Recently, my cousin and cousin-in-law have been thinking about relocating to our state because of recent job opportunities, and we've hosted them in the past when they visited. The first time they stayed with us, before my son was born. My nephew seemed to develop a strong attachment to my wife and always wanted to be near her. He drew a picture of a heart and picked some flowers from our yard and gave them to her before they left, saying he loved her. My wife thought this was sweet and gently handled his crush by telling him she would always love him as his aunt. But she was sure he would find another girl to fill his heart soon. He told her no, she was his girlfriend. This weekend, they were staying with us again, and my nephew again wanted to be near my wife every chance he got. His mom and dad noticed and told him that because my wife now had to care for our son, she couldn't pay attention to him as much as before. He got upset telling us that she was his girlfriend and had a meltdown, which caused my son to start crying. When my wife got up to take our son to another room to calm him down, my nephew got up to follow and his dad had to forcibly restrain him from following them. I stood up to block the hallway into the separate room just in case he got away from his dad. Once they calmed him down, they apologized for his behavior and said they would keep better tabs on him. Here's the part where I may be the asshole. I told my cousins I didn't feel comfortable with my nephew being so possessive of my wife, and I know for sure she didn't. Especially since he seemed to be so jealous of our son. I told them I couldn't allow their son in our home until he learned to control himself and understand that my wife was not his girlfriend. I apologized but asked them to get a hotel room for the rest of their stay and not to visit us again unless they left my nephew behind with people they could trust and knew would care for him, while they searched for jobs in our state. They didn't say anything but looked saddened and went to the guest room with their son to pack up their bags. I guess they must have told my extended family what happened because my paternal grandmother called me this afternoon, telling me that I should have been more understanding and that I was wrong to ask them to leave. Am I the asshole? Technically, my cousin is my second cousin. My dad is an only child, so the cousin I refer to in my post is the son of my own dad's first cousin. My paternal grandmother and his paternal grandfather were siblings. I'm not sure if this is correct, but his autistic son would technically be my third cousin. The reason I refer to him as my nephew is because he's the generation after mine in our family tree, and it's less of a mouthful to refer to him as cousin X removed. A lot of people have posted that it's not correct to refer to him as my nephew, but to be frank, I don't care. And my family's never followed this traditional genealogy nomenclature. Without being specific, in the western state I was born and grew up in, it's not uncommon to refer to even close, unrelated adults as uncles or aunts. I call him my nephew because my cousin and I were close, and I still hope to have a close relationship with him if at all possible. Though I don't know how after this situation. Some have asked if I was jealous of my nephew calling my wife his GF. The first time, I thought it was amusing and was surprised that he had any romantic notions towards anyone, let alone my wife. Remember, in my mind he's my nephew and I never thought of him as anything other than a large kid because of his developmental delays and normal, for him, childlike behavior. Regarding the situation that happened this weekend, I was only concerned for my wife and son's safety. I didn't know how he would react and followed my cousin's lead, but wasn't about to let him get near my wife and son once they left the room. I don't know what was said to my paternal grandmother, but I don't want to react in anger and want to talk to my cousin once we've both had time to process what happened and calmed down. My sister Amanda never met her bio mom. My dad raised her alone until she was barely 1. My dad and my mom got married in 1992. Amanda knew that my mom wasn't her bio mother. She started pressuring my dad for information on her mom when she was around 17. My dad always gave her vague answers and refused to talk about her bio mom, which put a strain on their relationship. Enters our uncle and revealed the family secret. Apparently, Amy's mom wanted an abortion. She was 19. But my dad and his parents were able to bribe her. They offered her money if she followed up with the pregnancy. And she accepted. My grandparents sold one of their houses and gave her half of that money to Amy's mom when the pregnancy was viable. And the other half she received when she waived her parental rights over Amy to let my mom adopt her when she was 4. My uncle wasn't supposed to tell her that. My grandparents were furious. Amy stopped her crusade to met her bio mom, and her relationship with my dad went back to normal. Amy never mentioned her bio mom again, Dad got her into therapy after that. A month ago, Amy found out that she was pregnant. The pregnancy was an accident. She switched birth controls. The problem being, Amy is about to start her surgical residency and her hours are insane. It is basically impossible to raise a baby while working in that rhythm, so she wanted an abortion. The problem is that Mark, her fiancé, 6 years together, wanted her to keep the baby. It caused a big fight. In a move to convince Amy to keep the baby, Mark told Dad about this. Until that point, no one in our family knew about this. Dad talked with her, and they got into an enormous fight. Amy got the abortion 10 days ago. Mark ended up breaking up with her. She is obviously really sad. My dad was acting like a jerk. He was pretending that Amy didn't exist. He didn't want to talk or see her. So on Christmas Day, we were exchanging gifts. When everyone had already finished giving each other gifts, Dad got up and gave Amy her present. He gave her an envelope in front of everyone and told her to open it. It was 3 pictures with something written on the back, a name, an address, and a phone number. Dad told her that he was tired of babying her, that this is a photo of her biomom and her 2 sons. That was her biomom address, and that he contacted her biomom and she is willing to speak with Amy. He gave her Amy's number. Dad thinks that they will have a great relationship since they are so similar. Amy broke down crying. I ended up in a fight with Dad, called him a monster for doing that to her. He just said he was just tired and left. We ended up leaving and she spent the rest of Christmas crying on my shoulder. She is a mess since that. My younger brothers called me a Grinch for making a scene and ruining Christmas. My mom was silent during the whole thing. My parents have been giving me the cold shoulder since Christmas. When my sister, Annie, was 18 and I was 21, she got pregnant and had a daughter, Sophie. She developed what we believe was postpartum depression, but was never diagnosed as she refused therapy. When Annie's school started up again, our mother took on all childcare of Sophie. As Mum took on more childcare, Annie seemed more like her old self, happy, outgoing, generally mentally healthy. Then within 6 months of Sophie's birth, Annie got pregnant again with another girl, Laura, and the cycle of PPD symptoms. Mum taking over, and Annie's mood improving repeated. When Laura was 2 and Sophie was 3, Annie decided to move out of our parents' home, alone, and said she wanted our parents to adopt / raise her daughters. They said no. Annie said she couldn't take care of the girls as she had her own life and being a parent made her miserable. My husband and I already had 4 kids of our own. We'd bonded with the girls, and we had the resources for 2 more. So we offered to take them in, and Annie let us legally adopt them before moving about 8 hours away. It's been about 5 years, and the kids are doing well. It was a rough start, but we're now a stable, loving, healthy family unit. Sophie and Laura are 7 and 8, and Annie has recently lost her job and had to move back in with our parents. Annie has now asked for custody of Sophie and Laura. I'm writing custody like that because it wouldn't be custody in the legal sense, as she willingly surrendered all legal rights to the girls and can't get them back. We checked with a lawyer. However, Annie wants the girls to live with her. Initially she said she wanted them full-time and to legally adopt them back from us, which we obviously refused. Then she offered a compromise of alternate weeks, so 50 / 50 custody. Again, we refused. Given her insistence, we don't even want her around Sophie and Laura. So we've not been going by my parents' house as we typically do. It's been a month of constant badgering, insisting we let Annie bond with her daughters and allow her to at the very least take them for overnight visits, saying that Annie had PPD 5 years ago, and now she's ready to be a parent. I've responded that we are not babysitters, we are Sophie and Laura's parents. They're in a good place and this will be detrimental to all 6 kids. And Annie doesn't get to step in now when she never stepped up in the first place. The response from my parents and Annie is that I'm being unsympathetic to her PPD and I should let her at least have a chance, rather than deem her unfit without giving her a chance to prove herself. Plus, given that we already have 4 kids other than them, Sophie and Laura could probably do with a smaller household, and saying we're being unreasonable for not allowing Annie to bond with her kids. Recently I got engaged to my amazing fiancée Amy. I was the happiest I have ever been when Amy said yes, and was nothing but excited for our wedding. We started planning the venues, the dates, and the invites. When talking about who to invite, we both agreed to invite out coworkers as we have worked in our respective jobs for years and like them all. As I checked that off the list, Amy spoke up and said everyone from my job can come except my work friend Tally. Tally is also one of my close friends, so this surprised me that Amy didn't want to invite her. She has met Tally multiple times and there didn't seem to be any issues. When I asked why, she said she just doesn't like her and finds our friendship uncomfortable, saying she thinks that Tally is the type of person to try to sway taken men and be the center of attention. After talking some more to see where she got this idea, it turned out this was based on nothing but Tally's looks, as even Amy admitted that Tally is always very kind to her. But still, Amy is adamant about Tally not going and said that she makes her insecure. Amy is a beautiful woman, so I don't know why she feels this way. I told Amy that if it makes her feel comfortable not having Tally at the wedding, then that is fine. But before invitations go out, I wanted to speak to her privately to let her know to save embarrassment. Amy agreed, and that was really that. We didn't speak on the matter after. A week or so later, I went into work and Tally started to ignore me, only really talking if it was work related. I was confused, as it isn't just her, our coworkers have started to ignore her and acting strange to me. So I contacted her BF, only for him to be sarcastic on the phone. I asked what the problem was when he asked if I actually didn't know what happened. He then filled me in. Turned out a few days earlier Amy came to my work on my day off with invitations. I had no idea she even made them yet. And handed everyone an invite in front of Tally, then saying to Tally, "You aren't invited, women like you aren't welcome," which has sparked everyone suggesting she is my other woman. Since then she has been harassed by some guys at work and shunned by the women. She is now looking for another job. This pissed me off and I apologized profusely, as I didn't know. When I got home that night, I confronted Amy about this. She denied it at first, but then told me she did it, but it is now not an issue because she's quitting her job. I flipped on her, saying how she clearly didn't trust me to say and that she crossed a line doing all this behind my back. She didn't see the problem and got upset, asking me why I'm so mad, me responding, "If we are really going to get married, get your insecurities in check and grow up." I stayed at a friend's since but have had texts from Amy, her friends, and her mother saying for this and that Amy doesn't deserve this treatment. I have made many attempts to speak to Tally privately to find out what was happening prior to contacting her BF. She brushed me off by saying she either had work to do or that there was nothing to talk about. No one would really speak to me, so I contacted her BF as a last resort. Her BF says he is going to pass on to Tally what I said to him on the phone. The wedding is currently on hold. That is also why I'm staying at my friend's. Need some distance to figure stuff out. Nothing has or ever will happen with Tally, no feelings, nothing adult, absolutely nothing. Tally is happy and in love. Her boyfriend is someone I also consider a close friend. I was happy with Amy prior to this. And Tally is more like a sister to me. Unfortunately, due to what Amy has done, all I can really do is damage control. Of course I am planning to explain to everyone what has happened. I do not want Tally to be going through this. She is a genuinely kind person who does not deserve any of this.